Hi, it's Seth here, and I wanted to talk about being an ally today and being an advocate. Um, I think that it's really important to have allies and advocates in the world. Basically, sometimes marginalized people don't have voices, and those with power and privilege have to speak out for them when they don't have a voice. I can speak from a trans man myself that it's nice sometimes to have advocates and allies in our communities who aren't trans, who are straight, cisgender, or just don't identify as trans or queer, because we're not supposed to be alone. You know, we're not supposed to be just our trans group over here, and then we got the cis people, and then we're just separated. That just something about that's just wrong. But I'm seeing a shift in the world today as this last year there's been a lot of exposure brought to media towards marginalized people that have been oppressed, especially with the Black Lives Matter and transgender people in media, and just probably like lots of things. I know there's like Muslim exposure, and just there's a lot of diversity in the world. So diversity is like it's a hot button to talk about. Like if you go and you hashtag diversity or cultural competency or privilege and power or culture, everybody wants to talk about it, and everybody wants to look like they know culture or that they know diversity. And so I think like maybe a year or so ago we would deal with it like a different kind of transphobic, where people would be quiet about it, or they just be downright aggressive. As for today, people aren't going to be quiet as much, or and they're not going to be as aggressive, because if you're just that's like a man in a woman's dress, or like saying something really transphobic. I mean, I don't know. I can speak for Seattle, but maybe other places are a little bit different. But if you say stuff like that here in Seattle, people will be like, "You're stupid. I don't want to be your friend." So like, if you're transphobic like that, you're not gonna have friends, and you have to learn. Like, so basically, we got these two worlds, and of the privileged and the oppressed, and they're having to come together and have the conversation, and sometimes it's been sloppy. I could speak about the Gay Christian Conference that I just got back to. Last year, I went to the conference and I felt really invisible. I mostly because there wasn't much talked about in regards to trans people and the trans narrative. I was just like, is this some big just gay cis white thing going on? And then also I was like, when are they gonna come out of the closet as trans women? Oh, Jasmine, I'm trying to talk right now. Please go get on the chair. They're not gonna appreciate you interrupting. All right. So that was tough, but this year they had a lot of awareness towards trans issues. Each workshop they had a trans person speaking, and during uh, their keynote speakers, they had a black guy, and they had a trans woman, and they had Justin, the leader, who is a gay white man, white cis man, yeah. Who he ended up talking about uh, Black Lives Matter, and he talked a little bit about trans issues and how we need to be more aware of those that are oppressed in the world. So the conversation was brought up in the conference, which was really nice. I did not walk away feeling invisible, but sometimes it did. And actually, it did by this one trans woman who in the workshop, and she got up and she kind of reminded me of Caitlyn Jenner. Just she got up and she spoke from her experience, and I'm thinking there's lots of trans people in this room. You're not the only person who that has gone through this. Like, we all have different stories, but she spoke from a generalization. She used like generalization words all the time, and I'm like, well, what about you know others, trans people and such. So yeah, there was a lot of discussion about how the conversation was handled, and I can go in more in depth, but I'm not going to. But it was sloppy, and I don't say that as an insult. I think that we should expect sloppiness when we start having these conversations. I think what would make me more upset is if, like, a straight cis gender person comes to me and expects to be like this perfect ally and advocate, and just be like, I don't know. Because if you think you're going to be a perfect ally and advocate, like, you're not really giving much space to learn. Um, this stuff could take years of learning a culture, because a culture is so diverse. In the trans community, there's so much to learn. I'm still learning things. Yesterday I met somebody who was genderless, and I was just it was a new thing for me, and I'm trying to wrap my mind around what it would be like to feel like I didn't have genders. And um, when you meet somebody who's different than you gotta bring some sensitivity. I was talking to my therapist about this today, and about how I don't really like the word advocate. And then I just said that how it's important, right? I think I don't like the word because people like to use it today to kind of be cool, you know? Like, they want words like cultural competency and diversity and working with marginalized people on the resumes because that's cool, right? Because there's such a diverse world out there. Uh, I think what becomes troubling is when these people put themselves in positions as experts, and then they speak our story over our story. Or they speak as though they know our story. Um, and sometimes this happens in therapy sessions, uh, or people in authority. And I want you guys to know that you guys you guys are your experts on your story, and to watch out for microaggression that could be masked in the word advocate or ally, as if you feel like somebody's not really hearing your story. They're probably not, and you should listen to your story and validate it. And get around some trans people too. I think there's the balance, the balance of being with your people who have been oppressed. For me, it's trans people, and then being with privileged people. I come from a position of power in society, which for me it's cis people, cis straight people. There has to be that balance between interacting in this world and interacting in that world, and we can't create an us versus them thing. Like, even me talking about this advocacy, like, you shouldn't use this to be like create wars between each other. We should come to each other and be like, I'm sloppy with this communication. Let's learn from each other. I'm not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. But that doesn't often happen.